Hey you guys, good morning. Girl Town here, coming to you from my other channel. I should just change it to Girl Town too, but I thought maybe I could be on the DL, kind of go under the radar for a minute. But anyway, my site is taken down on the other channel, and I think it goes back on Thursday or Friday. So I want to show you something I found a while ago. It's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is the information decimation RIDS dead list. All right. Understands. This is an updated list of the people FBI understands are deceased. Okay. Now what I've discovered about this is it looks like it's for foreign interest. We are being held in America as foreign assets, and then they strip you of your name and marry you off. Who has the jurisdiction to do such a crime to somebody? Well, the FBI has jurisdiction to do anything they want to. So they might be hiding things overseas, but still they're doing it because of the worth of the human body. The worth of the ovaries, the worth of the gallbladder. So let's go down here. And the RIDS list, you can just type in FBI dead list. Now this is a 674 page document. So if you're going to get it, you can't really search it. Like if I search a name up here. Okay, so this is a name, L, and then this name. FBI SA, date 1/19/1990, FBI officials. All right, so it's L. Douglas, which is a name, people are like, you dox yourself sometimes. But look, these are assumed names anyway. My real name, I think my last name is a totally different name than the name they stripped from me and then gave me. So they're using this Peters Trust that goes all the way back. It goes all the way back through history. And then it's got some very weird things deep in the far back history that they're using to execute somebody's will. Execute means a couple of different things. So all of these words have double and triple meaning. But here is my name that I knew myself as. Yes, it only has one S. But here it says FBI SA, right? Which is special agent, FBI officials. Now, what I've looked up on here is, I've been looking and looking and looking at men who asked me to marry them, at people who said they were my best friend. I've been looking at those specific people. Sometimes it will say they're a special officer, and sometimes it will say they're a special agent. So I started with this guy that I knew way back in the day, and he had a family, and the family, they were like sisters and brothers. And their last name was Brawley, Brolly, or Lley. Sometimes they change the spelling of the name. And these people, like I was hanging out with these people, and the one person kept saying Plum, because of the Plum Committee. The Plum Committee is Planning and Land Use Committee that goes through LA City. So they kept talking about Plum or a Plum. So all of these people that I used to hang out with, they were literally mocking my position without me knowing that they were, if you know what I'm saying. So what you can do is you can put in, just go through, look at Douglas. And this is, just keep kind of going through. You can look up your name. But you see how Douglas goes back, birth 1883. And now what they're doing, you would have to look up this person and the probate laws and things like of that nature. Again, FBI officials, Robert Douglas, and look at these birth dates and just understand how history works. Douglas L, again, L, my first name, at least the name they told me was my name, is Lisa. And Lisa was on all of the birth records. All of the birth records that I found, my name is Lisa. I have last names that are different. Some of the birth records say that they didn't order a social security number, and some said they did. So Bureau is the last name, but I think Bureau is the Bureau of Federal Investigations, okay? And this is my name. All right. So let's go. And I found this thing where I think they're calling my mother Johnny Feathers. So what they basically do is they're saying that you have, this last name, right? And then what they do is they claim that you are a fugitive. So this is how I looked it up. I started looking up who I dated, the men that I dated. So I was dating a guy named Robert Phelps who ended up working for Patricia Bridges at Boeing. So Boeing is hiring people under state law. You're not allowed to use things like sexual coercion or extortion or anything like that. But at the federal level, they hire these contractors where you can't really, you have to keep digging to figure it out, right? So again, FBI SA. And then, remember, I played a dove, you guys. I played a dove. This is 1986. Date. Oh, death. FBI officials. Jerry Dove. And I think they mix and match. Douglas Fairbanks. I think they mix and match if you are a female or a male. Douglas A. Frazier. UAW. So how you can prove how they're doing it, they're just not doing, AKA Yancey Douglas, AKA Douglas Hardy. Right? LCN. Now, I don't know what LCN is. You can look it up if you want. I'm just going to keep going. So what they're doing is they're pretending that you are being provided to foreign nations. You're being held as a slave by the foreign nations, but it's really the federal government hiding you in these vessels and calling the vessels pleasure. So when you go to the police really don't have jurisdiction to look into something that's causing someone else pleasure, I guess. I'm not exactly sure. All right. So this Johnny Feathers thing I found was so weird. FBI SA, FBI officials. Here's a judge, W. Hillman. Alec Douglas. See, it says nothing over here, but it says home. There's no place like home. So they're attaching you, through different names. I mean, they're just using assumed names, right? I think that first one I showed you is enough. Douglas MacArthur, Gene MacArthur, U.S. Army General. So you go back, like if you're on Ancestry.com, for example, you would put in the names you found on birth certificates that, to follow those historical lines and see what's back there, back in the wills or the probates. There's a lot of information on Ancestry.com and on 23andMe. So you can look there, I think, for getting, like Douglas M. Price, there was a Jerry Price, again, date 1968, FBI agent. So, keep going. And then you can go, here, let me see if I can go, Peters. So Peters, we got Art Peters, Alfred Alfred Peters goes way back in the Peters line. I've looked that up. Bernard Floyd. This says Dr. Bernard Communist. So I guess they just, this is weird. Nan Peters. Julius Peterson. Raymer. John A. John P. John. Wife of Bernard Peters. Let's see what else I can find. If there's... Could be... So, like, for example, I knew someone named Julius. Like, she called herself Julius. Let me look at the other names. Penland. So, Robert E. Penland. Date 12/21/1997. FBI officials. So, they're using the name Penland to identify me, and then I was born, and then they killed me a year later on paper. So then I'm on the dead list, period. And that's a prohibitive, restrictive list where you don't have rights in America. And they do it under the HHS. So who is allowed to torture? Who is allowed to do that? FBI. They use the FISA courts and the foreign asset courts, but you're really being tortured by friends, lover, people that know your situation. So it's very important to know your name and then know how they're using the name, right? Alvin, Congressional, Hanson's another name they're using for me. So, again, FBI officials, Hanson. John Hanson Magdiel, right? In 1876, a communist. So they find something in your bloodline or in your background or attach you to something in your bloodline or your background, I think. And then what I've found is some of the most powerful people in Los Angeles are way back in go way back into the historical line, and you'll find that they have a guardianship, and they look like one thing, like they're museum curators, but they actually work for the FBI. Okay, so that's fascinating. You have to go back and back and back, like into the 1700s to find those names. My sister's also using the name Farrell, and I was married to someone named Farrell. My dad's using the last name Hobbs at one point, aka Stephen Douglas. But then when I tried to look up Stephen Douglas, I didn't find. I punched in his supposed parents, right, and there was just nothing coming up. But my father, that was basically an FBI agent, I'm assuming. When I punch in his parents' names, there's a historical line attached, but there'll be a name that they adopt to hide that they're faking your death over and over again. I got this idea from a show called The OA, where they kept killing the most gifted people. The OA was a very interesting show. I think it was on Netflix. So Farrell, U of C professor, Alexander, Brian Farrell, but there's no George. George is the one I'm supposedly married to. Let me see if I can find Cartwright. Cartwright, when I looked him up, works for the FBI. Robert F. Cartwright, Chief of Personnel Files. Again, the person who's supposedly married to me has a different first name. I think it's Christopher Cartwright. Christopher Richard Cartwright, but it's not showing up here. See? So I think you could look at this list and find a lot of things about yourself. People always ask me, where do you start? And then I really think that you can call the state and ask if they have, your parents' record, because when I did that in my state, they said that my parents don't exist as parents of me, my name it's somebody else. That's how I started finding it.